Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show. It's good to be back, and I guess you call it the COVID-19 series, doing our little Zoom podcast situation here, and I've got my good friend on the other side of cyberspace. Before I say his name, I'm going to read his bio for you. He is a singer-songwriter and producer based out of Carrboro, North Carolina, whose music is built on old school R&B, rock, and modern pop. He stays focused on good vibes. However, his lyrics are often more conflicted, dealing with subjects like heartbreak, anxiety, and self-control. His childhood was soundtracked by his parents' favorite R&B, classic rock, and soul records, which laid the foundation for the music he makes now. His debut EP, Shivers, released March 2019, and since then he's played the NC State Fair, Eno River Festival, the Pinhook, Local 506, several So Far shows, and much more. Please welcome to the Jason Damico Show, Mr. Wake Moody. Good to see you, my friend.
That's me. Good to see you, too. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. How you doing on your side of the world right now, which is only like 30 minutes for me?
I know. I'm doing all right. It could be worse. Like I was saying to you right before we started, I'm an introvert, so it feels like I've been training for this my whole life.
Yeah. So beginning stages for you, man. We'll talk a little bit about how you got into music, and got a couple of songs you're gonna play live for us, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But let's start with beginning stages first. How did you get into it?
It originally started a little embarrassingly with my parents making me take piano lessons. I guess they just felt like I had to do something. And I just totally did not connect with it at first at all. It was like Hot Cross Buns and Mary Had a Little Lamb and whatever other little fairy tale songs you had. I didn't I didn't like reading music. I didn't really care about the songs I was playing. I never listened to classical music, so I didn't care about that. But then I hit that point in middle school. Or I don't know if this happens to other people, but in my middle school, all the guys got into classic rock and like Led Zeppelin and Jet and AC/DC and Pink Floyd and all that stuff right at the same time. And they were like sharing CDs and everything. So suddenly it was just really cool to be into music. And then I realized, well, I can kind of play music. I took lessons back then, so I tried to bridge that gap of like, well, piano is not the most rock and roll instrument, but let's see what we can do. So I would learn a lot of like the Beatles and even, I don't know, Dan Fogelberg. My dad liked Dan Fogelberg. He likes Dan Fogelberg. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning stages.
Yeah, my mom was into Dan way back. Did he do, what did he do, that one song about?
He did Same Old Lang Syne.
What was it, drinking beers in a car?
Oh, I don't. Oh, yeah. We drank a toast to innocence. We drank a toast to now. Yeah. No, that's that one. Same Old Lang Syne. That's about.
Oh, it's the same one?
Yeah, that's him like running into his old lover in the grocery store, and then they like meet. They sit in the car together and they like have a drink, and that's their like sad little reunion. It's all they can do.
That's a crazy dude. That like I'm getting like chills thinking about that song. I haven't heard that thing in years, but I was like, I used to listen to that like before I really understood what it meant, you know what I mean? But it was that song was that'll hit you for sure.
All right. Well, congratulations. You for sure have cornered the market on podcasts that are talking about Dan Fogelberg right now.
Yeah, not too much market share out there for that.
No, it's truly weird how huge he was for my dad. Not my mom as much, but my dad. And then how he's never brought up. I never hear anyone else talk about him until now.
Yeah, my dad was always like, what is this? Yeah, it's but my dad's big into, the Beatles and the Cars and a lot of more of that melancholic stuff anyway, like so it to each their own, but that's pretty. I have not heard that song in a while. I haven't heard of that name in a while. But
yeah,
it's cool, man.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where all his piano songs are in C major, so you're like, okay, white keys, I get it, But yeah.
What besides him, what other influences?
Well, so the whole rock and piano thing never really made sense. I wasn't that good at guitar, So it was this weird situation where I really didn't know what kind of music I was making. I didn't even really know what music I liked, because I don't know about you, but I went through this really weird, desperate phase where music was my whole identity. It was like kind of the coolest thing about myself, but I also wasn't very good about it and didn't actually know much about it. So there was just a lot of trying to seem smart without actually being talented. Like I got really into time signatures. Let that be sort of the painting of the picture.
Right.
It's just even now I look at like weird time signatures as like the quickest way to try to seem smart or sophisticated. But anyway, in undergrad, I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I started to get really into R&B in these little ways, because I'd listened to R&B all the time growing up and not really connected with it as much then. But then when I found like James Blake and Frank Ocean, that kind of met me halfway, and I started really feeling what they were doing. And then it's just been even more and more since then. And now R&B is like my favorite kind of music, and it's what I make mostly.
Well, and I was gonna say, because the R&B soul aspect to, because when I ran sound for you guys, just,
oh yeah, for the cover band.
Those roots were so prevalent,
Yeah.
And you don't really see that in this day and age. It's more kind of like on the hip hop thing or the pop. Right. There's very fine lines between the two now. They've really merged.
Yeah, it really is. That's been my big struggle, is I've tried to I wasn't steeped in like the culture of R&B at all, just the music. So I've had to kind of figure out other parts of it. And it's been weird realizing how rarely you find like pure R&B. Like it's all, like you said, it's always mixed with something. It's always mixed with pop or hip hop. And so it's been hard to delineate, but I know I'm into it.
Well, any influences that come to mind? Any other ones? As far as like, I remember John Mayer. You guys, didn't you play John Mayer track?
We did. I'm sure it was "I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You."
Yes.
Because when you worked with us, it was the cover band, and I get in trouble with that cover band because I tend to make the songs a little too R&B, which I've learned to most people translates to like, this song is putting me to sleep. Especially if they're at a party. Depends. If they're at a party and they're playing beer pong, I'm sure they're all legal to drink and whatever,
right?
And having fun. They don't want to hear like a slow jam. But there are other times where the slow jam is it's just right.
You guys were killing it at that event, I thought.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was the crowd. The crowd was digging it.
But like
that was a fun show.
Yeah, it was. But like you saw when I was playing acoustic guitar, and I don't normally do that in my super R&B sets, but there I was trying to like bridge the gap and make Margaritaville sound like Margaritaville. But yeah. But
well, I mean, talking about the gigging side of things, especially with the way things are now, my whole schedule totally got obliterated.
Absolutely.
And we had a couple of artists on earlier today with their segments, and I mean, it's just the same thing. Everybody is talking the same talk. What are your thoughts on that, and maybe tying into reflecting on some times in the past that were good or bad, whatever you want to focus on. But let's just talk about the gig life, because I do miss it right now.
Right.
For sure.
I really miss it too. I've learned that even the gigs where you think you're not having fun, you end up feeling better after you do them.
Yes.
And the gigs where you are having fun, you feel good doing it, and then you feel good afterward. So it's just like, I don't know. I remember Jerry Seinfeld talking about how his whole goal in comedy was just to be a comedian, because just being in that community and doing the things you do as a comedian, having comedian problems, having the thoughts a comedian has, that was all he really cared about. And same for me. It's like, if I feel like I'm getting to be a musician and getting to go out and play, that's what makes me happy. And I am sure that a lot of other people are also finding out right now that that's what was making them happy, even if they were like, oh, music isn't doing what it used to for me. Now it's gone, and they're like, oh crap! Turns out it was.
Right.
It.
Right. No, that's a really valid point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really valid point.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you think, and this is kind of like the reoccurring theme that keeps showing up with whoever's on the show, is that we don't know really what this is going to look like when this is all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
your thoughts on that?
It's really scary, but also really exciting. I think we're gonna see, and this is kind of obvious point, but I feel like we're gonna see live streaming and other sorts of virtual engagement just absolutely flourish and blossom. Like I cannot imagine, I couldn't hypothesize or imagine a situation more designed to force that area of the industry to evolve as quickly as possible. So it's.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering if it's not going to elbow out certain kinds of live music a little bit, because, it's like your favorite artist, normally you could only see them when they came to you, but now it's like, do I go out and see a show from some local bands or even some touring bands that I'm only kind of into, or like, hey, my favorite band is live streaming tonight. Like, I might as well just stay in and see them. Their production quality is going to be incredible. All the introvert reasons not to leave the house, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, I mean, of course, I feel like most musicians who like really tour, I've not really done that, but most who like really travel know how hard that is and how expensive it is. And if you could tour without the touring, oh my God, that is so much more profitable, so much easier. It's just so much more manageable. You get to stay with your family, everything.
Yeah.
So
I think that'll be the main. I think you just nailed it right there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more profitable, then that's really what's going to change it. And I think it's going to come from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, let's say that the mainstream artists, if they really start innovating like everybody else is, which they are. I mean, everybody's doing the same thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do start making more money with this new technology, or they're making the same amount, or maybe there's way less hassle. Maybe they're whatever it is, right? There you go. Because then once they do it, then everybody else is going to have to kind of follow suit.
Right. Yeah. I
guess. That's a great point.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be the same thing that usually happens. Some mixture of people really far down, just innovating and figuring out what works. And then someone really high up, like a Beyonce type, is going to sort of show how it's done based on all the ideas that came from underneath, and then that's going to be the model for a while. So
yeah, I don't, especially with the fact of, and I've been saying this again previously, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this will happen again. So you say that to a venue owner in wherever, middle tier venue owner, and that's usually the venues that are hosting a lot of indie artists these days. Right. That those are not the words that they want to hear.
No, they're not. And I think a lot about how this is a little depressing, so forgive me in advance, but I look a lot at how much of what's happening right now is sustained by generosity and from people kind of feeling like it's going to go back to the way it was. And as long as we preserve things in the meantime, like we donate to local venues, et cetera, donate to musicians, things will go back and we'll have sort of buoyed them through this time. But you bringing it up and saying, this will happen again, there'll be some other pandemic resembling situation. I just feel like people are not going to really have the spirit to be generous like that again through a second time, because they'll just kind of, the spark, the feeling of like, we'll get through this together, because then we'll go back to the way it was, will be gone. It'll be like, oh, this is just going to keep happening. Like the world officially needs to change to accommodate this now.
And I think, it's great. I think the other side of it is also, these venues, it's already been tough. So the fact that it's like if they have to, some of them I think the system is just not going to. They're not going to be able to have the infrastructure to rebuild with a system that's adequate for the times. And that's the really depressing part about it. The other thing is financially, generosity speaking. Yeah, there's definitely some generous folks. What I've noticed, and this isn't me personally, what I've noticed, I'm just seeing it from like social media and just general people talking. My evidence is that this is a pandemic going on, and just like anything else, the arts community always gets kind of the boot. Yeah, because we're extremely essential non-essentials. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So, people are saving up to buy the 5 dozen packs of eggs and the 5 milk cartons for the next month. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I get it because we're doing it.
Yep. Yes.
Things are changing.
Yeah, I have 2 thoughts on that. One is my therapist who's pretty old and she's in her like 70s and she has some kids who are musicians. I remember talking even before all this went down. I thought, if anything happens, how am I going to continue my career as a musician? And she said, you'd be surprised, because when her experience with the Great Depression, she said people were still going out to see movies. They were still buying records because it's like, it sounds cliched, but like having art is kind of what makes you human.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Totally giving up on enjoying art is just like completely surrendering your humanity to a bad situation. It's like it's kind of unthinkable at a certain point. So even when you barely have any money, people will still find a way to pay for art. Now, I do think that totally limits how many artists can get paid in a situation, but there's still something. And then, oh my God, I completely forgot my other point. Oh, I'm so good at this.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
I've got some other bullet points here I want to cover. Let's talk about your processing a little bit, your songwriting, your almost love songs. I'm curious to see what your take is on that, and
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny you bring those up at the same time, because for sure what they have in common has been me needing to like really humble myself and just accept that you have to learn how to get good at what you're doing, and you can't be like clever and work your way around it. Because again, that was with the whole not being good at music, but just trying to be smart and make it work that way, Because with my songwriting, I have this mentor who was just really good for me, and he pointed out at some point that all my songs were like anti-emotion, or they were like almost love songs. They were basically like, oh, we broke up, but who cares, because I'm better than that. Or it would, or that sort of thing. Or even like taking an emotional situation and having the least emotional possible view of it. Like it was very detached, and it was trying to be smart and be above it. Do you think there's a,
not to get into like the psychology of it, but did you realize why that was? Or
oh, totally. I mean, God, I don't want to get into all of it, but overall, I'm I'm a very cautious, kind of scared person. Like up until literally January, I'd never even been in a relationship. I'm 29. So like, I'm just very slow and cautious. And I guess, again, that was my way of trying to be smart and justify my lifestyle and say, I'm being separate from all of this because to be a part of it would be too painful, But you can't.
Well, I actually kind of identify with that on a lot of. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Have you made art that was more about like proving your own lifestyle to yourself than actually connecting with other people?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, it was never really from a lifestyle point of view, I don't think. It was more of just taking experiences and just writing about them. But you could say that those experiences were the way that they were because of that recognition of, your viewpoint on things, for lack of a better way of saying it. Hopefully that makes sense.
I think so. I'm turning over the phrase in my head, making sense of it. But yeah.
Let's say in an indirect way or inadvertently, it's possible.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. But yeah, my mentor pointed out that it was all like anti-emotion, and he asked for my permission, and then he like totally excoriated me and was like, dude, this is not what connects with people. If you really want to take your career seriously and you want your songwriting to mean anything to people, you have to like feel something in your songs. That's what music is. Yeah. It's emotion. Yep. And that sounds like, that's not even songwriting 101. That's like what a 4-year-old knows about songwriting. And even I like hadn't really come to terms with it. And so I just had to accept, like, you just gotta learn to be good at songwriting just like everyone else. You gotta feel crap and write about it in a way that helps other people feel it too. You can't just like be too smart for it. And in the same way, I ended up being I had this weird relationship with how I produced and arranged and recorded my songs, where I tried to do as much of it as I could on my own, only to learn that, you're not automatically good at that. That's its own completely separate skill. You have to really learn.
Takes years, my friend.
Yeah, really learn and find your way around. So I had to, again, accept that I wasn't just going to try to be smart and figure it all out on my own, and like humble myself and figure out how to work with other people and trust them to, know what I was going for and be better at it than me, which sounds arrogant, but again, it was more like scared, and I just didn't want to spend money, yada, yada. Basically, my life has been defined by not doing things rather than doing things. Not wanting to spend money and being too scared to be in a relationship, whatever. So just opening up and doing things and just putting myself out there and having risk of failure, but at least you tried, in both the songwriting and the recording process.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, honestly, man, I don't think you're the only one. Like, I know I identify with a lot of that on certain levels, and I don't think you're the only person that has gone through that. There's a lot of people where, and sometimes you may think that the way that you speak from an introverted perspective, there's a lot of extroverts that hide in their extroverted nature. It's the opposite thing. Right. Where they don't know how to slow down. They don't know, like, they feel awkward if they can't slow down. It's kind of like FOMO or something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I totally resonate with what you're saying. And I would add on to it. I'd say I think there's other people out there that feel the same way, and I appreciate your transparency, because it's definitely a tough time. You actually articulated stuff that I've felt within myself, that I've been working on for the last couple of years, and I wasn't really able to say it perhaps as eloquently or boldly. Oh, well. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just, Were you, I'm not trying to phrase this in a weird way. When you were young, were you like a smart kid? Like, were you the kind of kid who like school was like a little easier for you?
I mean, I guess it was more from a place of I always wanted to do the best that I could. I always wanted to, I was raised with the impression that when your name's on something, you want it to be as best as you possibly can be. Oh, yeah. And I've had the same translation. I'm definitely perfectionist. You ask anybody who's been following me for the last decade, absolutely perfectionistic. Right. As far as smart, I wouldn't say that I am. I know I'm very good at certain things. Right. But as far as smart, I would say my tenacity and my obsession with certain things kind of masks the
wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll just do whatever it takes to make something happen.
I do know exactly what you mean, because literally I've been trying to be more like what you just described, because first of all, I know you're a perfectionist because the when you did sound for my band, you actually sat at the soundboard the entire show. Unlike most frat shows with a lot of other people I've worked with, where they just kind of like dial in and okay, that's cool, and they just walk away. They come back like, so how was the show? Like, dude, it was your show too. Like, come on. You actually sat there and you did the damn job, and I appreciated it.
Hey man, thanks. Well, listen, it's either you do it or you don't.
Yeah. But anyway, again, when I was younger, I was one of those kids where I guess I was a little better at school, and adults would tell me like, "Oh, you're so smart," and then that became my source of pride.
It could become an identity piece.
Exactly, but it was bad because it turns out I'm not actually that smart. I'm like probably.
Dude, I don't think anybody is. I mean,
exactly. I think I'm like about
Einstein
average.
even had his hiccups. You know what I'm saying?
But the weird thing is when you've been told you're smart when you're younger, and then you turn out to be like not like a genius. You're just like average, and it turns out you have to work hard for stuff like everyone else does, and it's just like, I don't know. You feel like a weird failure for having to admit you're not smart. I don't know. And admit that you're just going to have to work hard to figure it out. So basically, I've been like aggressively rejecting that old version of myself and doing what you said, which is like taking pride in the idea that you're just going to work as hard as it takes to make this happen.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, here's the other aspect to it. It's funny because a lot of the elders, a lot of the mentors, because your mentor is probably twice your age, right? Because all the ones that I've had are at least twice my age.
Exactly, yep.
And majority of them, they always talk about the journey. They always talk about all this shit that I was, at the time, like, I was like, whatever, like, just it's like, put my head down. Let's just get through this. Let's make it happen. Let's, let's just go. But, now at 26, especially within the last 6 to 12 months, that mentality has changed. And I've realized that for me personally, it really is like, that's why I started this podcast, not only just to bring people together, but to just build community and just build memories and share good times and just talk, that, because that's really what it's about at the end of the day. That's what it's about. Whether you're putting music out there for people, whether you're, just trying to share your experiences with people, try and help them out, try and give them something, give them good hype music for whatever they're going through, whatever. It doesn't matter. But, I'm really, you and I are in similar places, my friend.
Yeah,
similar
absolutely.
places right now with just kind of, and change is good. That means you're growing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've just...
Hopefully, and not regressing, but...
Yeah, I know.
Well, I guess we'll find out in 5 years.
Yeah, we will. We'll see. But no, I will say I think I've been fortunate enough to have a similar sort of realization and realize like, oh, these are, the good old days. Like, I'm doing the thing I want to be doing. I don't have to be
the time is now.
Yeah, like the time is now. Like, I don't have to be a rock star. I don't have to wait for something to happen. There's not like no one's going to hand me a trophy and be like, you did it. Like I said about Jerry Seinfeld, the reward is you get to do it. Are you having fun? Yeah. Are you making new friends? Yeah. Are you making good memories? Yeah. Are you making art you're proud of? Yeah. Guess what? You're doing it.
Yeah.
And are you learning and growing and changing? Yeah. So it doesn't get old. Exactly. So I totally feel what you're saying.
No, it's great points. We'll talk a little bit about your I don't know. We could go any way with this. I'm thinking we'll go in the route of let's talk a little bit more about the production process for you.
Oh yeah, sure. Ultimately, you'd call what I did self-produced, but that hardly means I was the only person with any creative control on it. It's more like I don't know how to put it. I basically did as much of it as I could myself, and then when I couldn't, I would go to someone else. And in retrospect, I should have surrendered more control because I think it would have turned out better, but I don't know. I'm just very much a control freak. I'm a perfectionist. I really relate to people like I don't know, Charlie Puth, John Mayer, Frank Ocean, people who you know, like, they take as much control as they possibly can over their product. Because
you're talking to one as well.
Absolutely.
And I made those choices based on, and I was going to bring this up earlier. I'm glad you brought it up. What happened with me, and I'm just bringing this up so you can bounce off of it.
Yeah.
But my experience was back in high school. I was in there were a couple of situations. I won't go into detail, but there were a couple of situations where I just got burned by people. Okay. And already having an inclination to playing multiple instruments. And my thing was, it's like, why not? It's another instrument. It's more, the more instruments, the more fun. That's the way I was looked at it. Yeah. Then I saw it from an opportunity of like, oh, well, so-and-so is not showing up for this. And also the cost analysis at the time, even at my teenage years, I was like, well, wait a minute, this stuff racks up. So I was like, why not? Prince did it, Dave Grohl did it, why not? So that was kind of how I got to that place. And then it was this self-reliance space. The other benefits are with song licensing and all of that, it's all in-house. So you don't have to go around trying to grab contracts from people. Another benefit is creatively. When it hits you, you get in there, you get your ass in there, and you do it.
Absolutely.
And there's no excuses. And at the end of the day, man, like when we're on our deathbeds, hopefully we think of two things. Number one, like, yeah, we were able to do it all. But number two, yeah, we were able to do it all, but we also had fun with other people while we were doing it. Because I understand, like, dude, I totally get that, that toe on the line with that, because you could do it all yourself, but you may be doing it all yourself and by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That was it would 100%. I would stagnate on my songs until I brought someone in to help with it. And then I'd suddenly be really inspired just from getting to share it with somebody, getting to work with somebody. Like, that's what's fun about music to me, is it's social. It's amazing. But yeah, it's funny you brought up the thing about getting burned from working with other groups. I'm in a weird position where that totally happened to me, but it's been so long that it's not like part of my narrative anymore. Does that make sense?
Dude, it was so long for me, and it's still part of my narrative.
I don't know. It's been like 6 years for me, and it took. You know how they say if you're in a relationship and you break up, it takes half the length of the relationship to get over it. Have you heard that?
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
So sure enough, it was a band that was together for about 3 years, and it took about a year and a half before I really started picking up the pieces and making things happen for myself. With lots of credit to some of the people I work with who really believed in me when even I didn't believe in myself. Like kind of my right-hand musical man, Keenan Jenkins, who would be a sin if I didn't shout him out at some point here.
Sure.
But yeah, God,
do you want to play something?
Oh yeah,
I totally forgot. We're having our existential conversation here.
Yeah, wow, this is like 1% MTV and 99% therapy. So I'll take it.
Well, it's up to you. If you want, you can do it in this segment, or we'll end this and do we'll separate it later. But if you're feeling the vibes, go for it, man. If you're already
totally
set up.
do a song. Oh, great. Wow, this song is 99% therapy as well. I'll do an original. This is one I haven't put out yet. I don't know. It's, again, with all the theme of me trying to be too smart, or thinking I have to be smart and figure out a situation and intellectualize it. It's a song I wrote about feeling like I had to understand myself before I could love myself. And feeling like if I couldn't understand me, how could anyone else understand me? And if they couldn't understand me, how could they love me? Which is totally backwards, because I love lots of people even though I don't understand them. But that was the revelation, was that love does not require understanding, because love is understanding. Love is the way I understood other people. And I realized I'm allowed to accept that. In return, I'm allowed to accept it from myself. I'm allowed to accept it from other people. And
that's good.
Thank you. And
that's real good.
Thank you. And the So what I realize of people, I have songs about anxiety. I know people who have similar situations. They have trauma where they just kind of can't really answer for what's inside of them and telling them to do all these things that even they don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And I realize the best thing you can do for that situation is to just love somebody, even though you don't understand them. You can say, I don't understand you, but I can love you. And if all I can do is love you, then I'm going to love you. And so this song is called All I Can Do Is Love You.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, man.
There are times when I find I worry about you. In the heat of the night, I can't figure out you. In the darkest of times, I may not understand what I can do for you and what I can't. But when your eyes are mirrors hiding what you see, and your clouds keep rolling on, when your hands are shaking but you just can't say what's wrong, when your lips are moving but you barely speak, and you're lost within the fog, when your hands are shaking but you just can't say what's wrong. All I can do is love you, is love you, is love. When your blue skies run away, I can make your rainy day a little warmer. I can't chase away the storm, no. All I can do is love you. It's the words you don't say that tell me the most. They tell me the most sometimes. And if that's what it takes to keep it composed, then keeping composed is fine. In the darkest of times, I may not understand, but you can lay your head in my hand. So when your eyes are mirrors hiding what you see, and your clouds keep rolling on, when your hands are shaking but you just can't say what's wrong, when your lips are moving but you barely speak, and you're lost within the fog, when your hands are shaking but you just can't say what's wrong. All I can do is love you, is love you, is love. When your blue skies run away, I can make your rainy day a little warmer. I can't chase away the storm, no. All I can do is love you. You can lay your head in my hand. You can lay your head on me. You can lay your head in my hands. When I don't understand, when I don't understand, then all I can do is, you know that all I can do, and all I can do, know that all I can do is love you.
Dude. Damn.
Thank you.
I think that's my new favorite song. I'm 100% serious.
You can't say that while I'm drinking coffee, dude. That's going to be coffee everywhere. No, thank you. Really, I appreciate it.
Dude, I
I've reached
love
a point
that,
where I
man.
can say I'm very proud of that song. Thank you.
You got that thing recorded yet?
I have a very thorough demo. I demo very thoroughly. And that's it.
Man.
So it's not out yet. That's the, if I'm allowed to say, that's kind of the next song I'm hanging all my hopes on. So I'm very proud of that one, and it seems like it's really connected with people.
Dude, I'm like, wow. Killer song.
That's very kind. Thank you, man.
Jeez. I don't even know where to go after that. We'll do. Dude, I was just like, everything about it just makes sense. Like the tone of the organ, the vocal, lyrics. It's R&B. It's pop. It's just like, man, really good. Really good.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it very much. I worked very hard on it for a very long time, so that means a lot.
Yeah. No, that is killer.
Thank you, man.
We'll talk a little bit. Yeah, let's talk about this real quick before we start kind of wrapping things up, and then you got your cover that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
What came first for you? Was it guitar, piano, vocals? How did that happen?
It was absolutely piano, 100%. I distinctly remember sitting at home with my dad's acoustic guitar, and my fingers were too soft and puny to even play the strings. So I was like, I'll do piano instead. And I had already been taking piano lessons, but I have only very recently, in the last couple of years, reached a point where I can gig on guitar. I really had to sit down and work to make that happen. But so it was probably 10 years after the first time I made money playing piano was the first time I made money playing guitar. Like, it was that long of a time. And singing, it was weird. I never considered myself a singer because I had no technique when I started. I sounded like, you know how John Mayer sounded before he took singing lessons, but way worse. I wanna run through the halls of my high school. That thing, the really whispery. I was like he pulled it off. I was the worst possible version of that back then.
Wow.
But I knew there was a turning point when I auditioned for a jazz combo on piano, and I wasn't totally confident in my piano skills yet, so I sang. It was like a Frank Sinatra song to try to cover it up, and I did not make it on piano, but they accepted me as a singer, even though I was not auditioning as a singer. So I thought,
I love it.
all right, that's cool. But yeah,
That's great.
so now I do all of them. I play drums too.
Cool.
All right. I've seen you. You're a real Renaissance man. I saw that version of Ain't No Sunshine you put up after
That
Bill Withers
that
passed.
was back in 2017. Yeah,
That was
that was
cool.
a while ago.
That good example of how you could truly do anything with that song. It was really cool, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. That's always been an opener. Well, it's not in smaller venues. Like that was definitely a Sullivan's Steakhouse opener when we played Sullivan's on Glenwood. Like 6-7 years ago, we would always open with that, or like some type of low key blues.
Yeah,
thing.
I feel that. Yeah, that's a good way to kind of ease into it. But it's hard to find those songs that have that vibe, but everyone still wants to hear them. You know?
Well, and it's a shame we just lost him. That generation, everybody's starting to go. Like talking about, I was just talking with who the hell was I having this conversation with? I think it was like Trey Richardson or somebody, and on the show a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about we were talking about like legacy artists and Jon Lord from Deep Purple, right, and Ray Manzarek from The Doors. We lost, in my opinion, like two of the greatest rock keyboardists, organists of all time in the same year.
Yeah.
And I was like, because this is back like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. My heart could not handle it because those guys, to me, and I'm not really much of a keyboard player, but
But yeah, I mean, when there are people, if someone's not into keyboard and there's someone that makes you care about it, that's really special.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I started on keys.
You did?
At like 2 or 3. Yeah,
Really?
but it
At
was
2 or
like
3?
I hated it though. So my mom was like, yeah. And my parents they got me drum lessons when I was 4, and I stuck with it for 10 years.
That's intense.
So
that must be a fun.
then,
that must be an interesting one to try to coordinate as your body grows. Like I've always wondered about kids with their tiny hands trying to learn to play guitar. Mm-hmm. With drums is your whole body, and then like you just get taller, and you're like, oh my god, the snare drum is all the way down here now, or something. I don't know.
It was never. Yeah, I don't even think of it in those terms. It was more of
more just learning like rhythm.
Yeah, a lot of it was rudiments.
Yeah, rudiments.
Reading and rudiments, which I hated reading. I still hate reading.
Yeah,
that's why I'm not a hired gun per se 100% of the time, because a lot of those jobs you'd have to read for, and it was like, dude, I'm an artist. Like I realized this in my teenage years. It's like, man, if you put something in front of me, I'm gonna change it anyway. So it's like it just wasn't even it's like Billy Joel. If you saw that old interview from him back like the early 80s.
No, tell me.
He was doing like the John Thompson books. Is that John Thompson? Is those piano books?
Sure.
I think those are the names.
I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever. Like those. Like
I knew Alfred's. My piano teacher had Alfred's.
Okay, so I guess equivalent to Alfred.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm getting the name right.
Yeah.
But he would like start making up things, and that was like 6 months into the lessons. So he just started doing stuff by ear at that point.
Oh my gosh,
which I thought
really
was kind
funny.
of interesting.
No, I actually had a similar moment at a piano recital where, again, the song was in C major, so it's not hard to just be like, let's add some new white keys. But I would, at the recital, I would like add notes and just add little figures and add a bar. If you're like, oh, this is pretty, let's put it here.
I did the same thing,
you
man.
Did?
Now that I think about it, yeah, on bells. Yeah,
really?
I was in private school for like 2 years, and it was the same thing. Like I was playing snare drum and bells, and I would throw in this extra stuff. And you're right. No, it's funny that you bring that up. We have a lot in common, man.
I think we do. I really clicked. It really clicked when you said, even if I could read it, I would change it anyway. That's how I feel about everything. Yeah, where I'm like, I so rarely feel the need to play a part exactly how it was written anyway. You know, so I know.
Yeah,
I know that's
especially in our world.
Yeah, exactly.
Or anything like pentatonic based R&B, blues, like blues especially. You can't write that stuff down.
Absolutely,
you can't write it down. There's too many nuances.
Right. I will say guitarists get away with that a little easier. I can't remember his name, but there was some guy who auditioned for the Saturday Night Live band on guitar, and he said the audition went all right until they gave him sheet music, and then he just completely failed it, and they still gave him the job. Because they were like, whatever, guitarists can't read, we don't care.
It's so true, though. It's so true.
Absolutely.
You'll find drummers that can read more oftentimes than guitar players.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I like reading drum music to a certain degree. I mean, I grew up doing it the most. Piano, I just want to shoot myself in the head. Anything with a double staff, it's like, dude, I can't go there.
Right. Well, man, I have a job with a church now, Hillsborough United Church of Christ. They're cool people, and I had to basically start reading music again to take that job because I was reading. I could literally see it right here, reading out of Ye Olde Ass Hymnal, the New Century Hymnal, and I was like, I just had to do it. And even now, I'm like just learning the melody and the chorus. I like basically write a fake book version of it above the staff line. I'm like, these are the chords, and I write the numerals for the melody. So I'm just reading the chords and the melody at the top.
Yeah. It's like whatever. And dude, the number system is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, so I don't even know why anybody would really want to. I wish they had a way to do that for the staff. I mean, they do it with tabs and things, but there's really no getting around the staff component. But the number system, I think for the last 20, 30 years, on Saturday Night Live, they're probably doing the number system.
I bet. Yeah.
And maybe just writing the melody in for the horns and whatever. You know.
Yeah, that makes sense. God,
what else do you want to play for us?
I have this cover I love doing. It is one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite artists, James Blake. I mentioned him earlier in the interview as one of those guys that started kind of winding me into R&B.
Cool.
I actually saw a live stream of him earlier today, and he was doing this song. And
cool,
it made me very happy. It's his song Retrograde, which is funny because the word retrograde is not anywhere in the song. Who knows how he makes these decisions? But here we go.
Cool.
By the way, this song is normally very electronic, so forgive me. Now I'm ready. No, I can do that better. Give me a second.
Woo! Nice.
Thank you.
You know, I had a thought.
Thank you. Say it.
You know, see where this takes you. But what we were
there.
talking about earlier with, you know, saying no to certain things and that lifestyle being more of a premise than saying yes. Like,
Yeah.
now I'll just throw this at you.
Do it.
You being able to do what you do musically and vocally. Let's say you were saying yes to other things. Who knows if you'd be doing it as good as you are now?
I've had that thought a lot, actually, for a number of reasons, but you're absolutely right. There was a real point where I kind of spent the whole summer between my freshman and sophomore year just playing piano at home because, and this is going to sound really sad, I'm not saying it to be sad, but just because my friends never really called me to hang out, and I didn't make the effort to call them either. I don't know if they even thought about it, like nothing was weird between us, but no one was asking to hang out, so I just sat at home all the time playing piano, and that is legit how I started getting good at it. It was just like 5 hours a day, being like, well, this is something to do, and I enjoy it. So, I don't know. I felt like Goku on that high-gravity planet.
Well,
just like running around and getting strong.
I think that might be your answer. At least that's the only answer I can tell myself, too, because I was doing for about 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And this was like still when I was getting my business degree online and all these other things that were going on. But I was probably doing anywhere from 10 to 14, 16 hours a day on guitar for about 2 or 3 years.
Oh, my God.
Right. And before that, it was from 98 to 08. Drums, it was at least, not when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, but around 7, 8 years old and beyond, it was probably 6 hours a day at times. So, you do it. You've got it under your belt. Now you can, I'm not saying like sit back and relax.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's more of like, you know what I mean? Like you've got those 10,000 hours in, you can enjoy it now. That was always the premise that I came from was like, well, let me put it in now because I don't want to be struggling later. I don't want to be playing catch up later.
Right.
If I'm doing any catch up, it's more of like, those things like reaching out to people, making time to be social. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a skill in itself. And there's some people that are very good at it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think about people like, not about being social, but about this sort of hiding in your bedroom and doing what you do. I feel like that's the narrative of people like Taylor Swift and Charlie Puth, which is funny because then you learn they just weren't very popular in high school. Right. And like people didn't really like them. Like apparently Charlie Puth was kind of a jerk, but he was, just at home working instead. I don't know. It's like that. Sometimes you graduate in the valedictorian as someone you've never met because they've just been working the whole time.
That's often.
Yes, often. Yeah. Which is funny because our salutatorian at my school was very popular and very well liked. And then our valedictorian was someone barely anyone knew. Right. So he was like, could have been. Who knows how this could have turned out? But yeah. Yeah. I do feel myself playing a lot of catch up, but I don't know how you do it, whether if you want to be good at so many things and you like really get joy and you find like it will help you achieve what you want to do, how do you do all of them? Like I have days where I think, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to work on my craft. And then I think, what is my craft? Is it piano? Is it guitar? Is it songwriting? Is it singing? Is it arranging? Is it producing? Is it any of this other list of skills that are important to me? And when they start to naturally fade, I get insecure about even being who I am anymore. Wow, this really is therapy.
You are not the first person to say that on the show.
Really?
No. And it's funny because when I started this back in, I start this thing. Misty Mayhem was the first guest. She was on. Oh,
really? She's great.
Yeah, she was on, I think, we'll have to go back in the log. I think it was June of 2019.
Oh, wow.
So we've been going for about 8 or 9 months now. We're about, at this point, I don't know what number you're going to be. I think you're probably going to be around 45 or 50. So, yeah, I mean, back out of the episode so far, out of the guests so far, I've heard that from probably 10 people.
Really?
Adam Pitts, I think, was the second one to say it. He was like third. He was like number 3. He was early on too.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I'm just having dialogue.
Right. No, you're completely valid to bring that up. And weirdly, I don't know about you, but the way I deal with it is to remind myself that I don't actually have to be good at really any of them to have fun and make art I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And connect and succeed. Like, no one in Coldplay is that good at their instrument, but they work hard and they're smart and they're kind. So it works out.
You know what I think it is, though? The question is whether you can live with it or not.
Right.
See, that right there, I think, has been the big thing for me, was like, if as I'm moving up in the career, I want my skill set moving up as well. I don't want to just sit.
Right.
And when I was younger, that was always like this subliminal, unconscious, perhaps, frame that I kept for myself, was like, no, I don't. I want to know it. Like, I want to know it. I want to be in there, and I want to know the system. I want to know the process. And it's strange, think about it now. But
it is. Yeah. I feel that too, but I don't know. I tend to stagnate a lot as I focus on one thing and another thing sort of doesn't move forward. But I can say with confidence, I have been on a total upward trajectory with songwriting at the very least. Like, the worst song I would write now is better than the best song I would have written 4 years ago. So, like, even if I go a while without writing songs, like, I'm still learning. Because it's weird how much goes into songwriting that isn't your craft. It's just the life you live and the experiences you have in this sort of... It's like why Bill Withers was so good. Because he had a life and he had experience and he had humility and just awareness of the world he was in. Yeah. And he got that by being the age he was and by living the life he lived. And then once he had the bare necessity of musical proficiency to get out what he needed to get out, it just came out.
Very good points. Very good points. I was gonna add something to that, but I don't know exactly.
I forgot some earlier. We can just call it one for one.
There you go. I've got a little fun thing I like to do at the end. It's just a shootout. And I'll say a word, and you just say the first word that comes back to mind.
Oh boy, this really is therapy. Okay.
Yeah, I've got charts here. I'll show that. I want you to tell me what image you see. Guitar.
John Prine.
Bass.
TJ Richardson. He's my bassist and one of my best friends.
Was he the guy that
he was when you were with us at the cover gig?
Great bass player.
Great bass player. Yeah, he's incredible. Very good guy.
Great band in general. You guys, I really enjoyed working with you.
Yeah, that's, by the way, that's the, I know we're doing the shootout, but that's the other thing I tell myself about my talent and proficiency. When I get insecure about it, I remind myself that literally being good at your job is less important than working with the right people.
Yes.
And so as long as that is happening, I can sleep a little easier. And TJ Richardson and Keenan Jenkins, who I mentioned earlier, those are the kind of people you want to be working with. Anyway, shootout.
Nah, for sure, man. Drums.
How am I so bad at this? I don't know. Sore. Because I remember playing drums for 2 hours at a time and being sore as hell afterward. That's funny. Feeling like a literal weird, literal almost depression. Like, oh my God, I can't keep playing drums, but it's so fun, but I'm literally too tired to do it.
Oh, it's so good, man. It is some of the best cardio you will ever have in your life.
Oh my God. It shocks my glutes back to life, I tell you.
Yeah. Especially double bass, man.
Oh God.
Vocal.
Narcissist.
Can't argue with that. Live.
Facebook.
Stage.
Lighting.
Makes sense.
Don't know why. It's very visual association.
Keys. Keyboards.
Oh, keyboards. Rick Wakeman.
All right, last one. Pizza.
Crust, because I have a gluten allergy. I got to know what that crust is made out of.
Actually, wait, I'm going to throw in one more for you.
Do it.
UNC.
Blue, because everything is blue at UNC.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
I'm so visual, it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really I should have something more deep and philosophical to say, but I'm like, it's blue. It's real pretty. The sky is blue. The color is, I don't know. That's all.
Before you were on, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, Binka from Germany. I'm probably still botching it. But anyway, he was on. He was very visual too.
Okay.
When I did this like kind of speed round with him, he was telling me like, oh, my bass on the wall. Oh, the pink guitar over there. I was like, oh, cool. You know,
Oh, nice. There you
everybody's got their own little thing. But my last question for you, by the way, thank you so much.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun.
If you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
Stop eating gluten when you turn 18. That is the literal best piece of advice I could give myself. Who knows
So
how long I had that
you've been
allergy
off
for.
the gluten for over a decade then, apparently.
Well, this could be a whole other interview segment, but yeah, I learned I had the allergy when I was 21 or 21, and it changed my life. I had been depressed and sick. I had like a flu or like a whooping cough or something for like 3 years, and I didn't know why.
Wow.
And I thought it just came out of nowhere. They tested for a bunch of crap, and that's what came back. And when I stopped, it was like waking up from the Matrix. It was like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz stepping from black and white to color. It was an indescribable difference. So, and I don't mean to be like hipster health food person. Like, I miss gluten. I wish I could eat it. I hope you eat some gluten right after this interview.
Dude, it's like pasta fest over here every night. So
I miss it. I miss it so much.
man.
But anyway,
So that's like basically anything wheat.
It's everything. And by the way, I'm for the quarantine, I'm living with my girlfriend because neither of us wanted to be alone. She's a vegan, so it's been fun.
Not too much fun at your house.
Not with food. But no, actually, she's a good cook, so it's great. But it's
cool.
funny. Sometimes her plate will be like just bread, and mine will be just meat. And we'll be just looking at each other like, okay, love you, babe. You know, just taunting each other. But no, it's been
That's great, Bob.
Yeah, I would go back in time and say, don't eat gluten and stop worrying so much.
Very good advice.
Except about gluten. You should worry about gluten.
Right. Man, whooping cough, that's something else, man.
It wasn't a literal whooping cough. I was
going to say, that's pretty wild.
I don't know. I sounded like I was like spit taking to something like every time. It was not good.
That's horrible.
Yeah. No, see, looking back, it's funny. At the time, not.
But hey, man, listen. So tell everybody where they can find you. We'll have obviously all of your links in the description box below. This will be on the Jason Damico YouTube channel and the Jason Damico show, Spotify link, iTunes link, iHeartRadio, all those feeds. Yeah,
I will definitely send people your way. You've interviewed some other folks I care about, like Misty Mayhem and Drew Ryan and such. So
Drew and I talked with Drew through text about a week ago, and it was just like. Oh, it was just
dude,
he
got hit so hard. Again, not to be a bummer, but like I texted him too just to check in, see how he was doing, and the tone of his text was just so defeated. I mean, I'm sure people are figuring things out now, but I just felt so bad. But that's another one of those guys that looks out for me, so I'm trying to look out for him if I can.
Oh, Drew is just
good dude.
I've known Drew since 2012. 2011 maybe.
Probably the same for me, actually. That's about when he and my cover band started working together. Oh my God, my cover band has been around for 7 years. Oh, I'm old. Ugh.
Did you guys play He's Not?
That was our first gig, was for my old band Morning Brigade, but they couldn't make it. So it was the cover band's very first gig. And for some reason, I super distinctly remember, this will put a timeline on it. Yeezus, the Kanye album, had just come out, and it was huge. I loved the song Bound 2, the closing track. And we got some rapper who I didn't even know agreed to do the rap on stage with us if we played the song. And he forgot it like 5 seconds in and just started doing this for the whole song. And the crowd didn't care. The crowd was just, they just loved it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is going to be a good cover band. So that's been the tone ever since.
I bring up He's Not because Drew was running sound for me when he had his first PA. I think that's how I met him, was at He's Not. No, I met him at Deep South. He and I had this conversation. This was like back when Deep South was still around.
I saw you interviewed Dave Rose too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was a Deep South event, like around 2011, 2012. I think. Oh, he opened up for us. That's what it was.
You know,
That's
I've never
what it
actually
was.
seen him play music. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, that was back when he was playing drums. He had his band.
Right.
There was like reggae and rock and covers and stuff.
Were they called Snatch the Snail back then?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Well,
I
hey,
remember
man,
them
thanks
being
for your
good.
time. Stay safe and healthy over there. And
You too, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
All
thank you
right,
so much
guys.
for having me. This was a real highlight between the nothing I did before and the nothing I'm about to do after. No, I'm actually having a good, busy day. But I really appreciate you making time for me, man. I do.
Yeah, man. And same for you. Well, folks, appreciate you for tuning in. If you guys are listening on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, thanks for tuning in.
Oh, wait,
watching
real
on
quick.
YouTube.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
wanted me to tell people where they could find me.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yeah. Just search my name on Spotify or Apple Music. Look up Wake Moody, like not a morning person. Wake Moody, WakeMoody. I have an EP. It's 5 songs. I think they're good. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Please look that up because I'm going to be doing a lot of live streaming. I'm going to be doing these themed cover streams where I have one night that's just Prince, one night that's just Bill Withers, one night that is just Hall & Oates, yada, yada. So please come join me with that. It's going to be real fun. I'll be taking requests too.
Awesome.
Yep.
That pretty much sums it up, folks. We will see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.